Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm HexDSL. Let's talk about Reader. Reader is an RSS reader for Mac. It's probably the single most well-known RSS reader for Mac. Why is my head so low in frame? It's probably the single most well-known RSS reader on Mac. And since I've switched to Mac, I want to say like a year ago now, maybe a little bit less, I don't know. Since I switched to Mac anyway, Reader has been my preferred RSS reader. It's very simple. Uses iCloud to sync, so I can sync it between my mobile, my iPad, which is my secondary device. I switched between my laptop, which, by the way, this here. This is what I'm using to record this. Brave to move it while I'm recording, I guess, but whatever. I don't know why I showed you that. I switch between my Mac and my iPad frequently. I don't really know which is my main device. Probably depending on task. Anyway, so then Reader's been great for that. But one of the things I've always had a problem with RSS readers is that sometimes you're busy in life and you kind of don't check your RSS for a day, maybe two, maybe 3 days you don't check your RSS reader for. And then you look at it and you've got an unread count of 10 quadrillion items and you go, yeah, I ain't reading that. You just mark all as read and get on with your day and start afresh. And that's something that happens more and more depending how busy you find yourself. For me, it happened like a lot. I would get to the point where I just would read specific feeds and then just ignore a bunch of it. Or there was something I'd subscribe to because I was vaguely interested, but I'm not going to read it every time something pops up. So I found myself really using it as a selection channel selector. But it was great. I had no problems with it, and it really was a good RSS reader. And all the shortcomings of usage was from me, not from it. It was me that was it was me that was doing stuff wrong, not Reader Classic. And I say Reader Classic because Reader 5 was recently renamed Reader Classic. And Reader.app, so Reader.app, became this thing. And this is a redesign. And what they did was they took Reader. It's one person I think makes it. Anyway, the organization or person that makes Reader redesigned it and thought more in terms of timeline, like social media, rather than the classical, here's a bunch of stuff you haven't read. Now, that was something I found interesting. And when I first loaded the application, I was disappointed because I felt like a bunch of features that should have been there was no longer there. And that grinded my gears a bit. I was like, why have you just removed feature? Why is it less feature packed? And then as I explored the application, I synced over my feeds and I had little lookses at stuff, I realised that there was a lot of wisdom in the decisions that had been made, because suddenly I didn't have an unread count to deal with. I just had, this is the last place you got to in the timeline. I can scroll down at my leisure, which made it feel less imperative and reminded me less of my backlog, or I can just jump to present if I want to do that soft reset. Overall, there's kind of no actual difference in the way the application used to work to the way the new version works, but the presentation is different enough that it feels fresher. Now, here is my Reader, and I've got a David Revoy Mastodon post there because it takes in feeds from Mastodon, comic book feeds, podcast feeds, normal RSS feeds, and it takes it and it sorts them into sections. So I've got podcasts, Mastodon, Blue Sky stuff. I follow myself in Blue Sky. I just want to make sure it's working. Comics feed there. I've got some Reddit stuff. Now you'll notice on the Reddit stuff there's a little X next to it. And there's a little lightning bolt and of the crossing, and that means it doesn't actually populate my main timeline, because while I want to read the Reddit posts directly and I don't want to have to deal with comments, I don't necessarily want my feed flooded with Reddit posts, and then all down there I've got my regular feeds. Now, I'm not following a lot at the moment because I'm still kind of migrating over the last couple of weeks, but what I can tell you is this is a better way of doing things. Not so much on desktop. On desktop, it doesn't feel drastically different from the old way of doing it, but this presentation of 3 columns and your timeline in the middle and then your application on the right applications content on the right feels so much better on mobile. It feels like the gentleman, I think it's a gentleman, it's a dude, I'm sure it's a dude. Anyway, the person that created this application, I don't know, anyway, I think I'll follow it, yeah. Saliva Rizzi, this person here, who creates it, has really given some thought into how this works and then made something that works in a way that feels modern and feels fresh and feels just like we've taken an old idea and we've repackaged it for the modern world to work in a way that falls in line with expectations. So now, rather than having unread, 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 and then you have the order they arrive in. So you have something. So if you add a new podcast, you add a new RSS feed, you'll find them all populate at the top really quickly. Now everything is always sorted into time and date order, so it's always relevant to when it was posted, which makes a lot of sense. And you can scroll down here and you won't find an unread count. And if I want to click on, for instance, this post right here, you can see it just brings in that Mastodon post with no problems. And then I've got XKCD here, and again, it knows it's comic book feed, so it doesn't waste my time looking at it doesn't waste my time with article stuff. It just bumps me straight onto the podcast, to the page feed, which is nice. And then down here, we've got some Reddit stuff. So let's look at the iPad Reddit. Again, organizes it in chronological order. Remembers my last reading location. I don't go to this specifically a lot, so there you go. It's remember my last reading order. And there's my own website, which is always a safe bet. And again, it remembers that it remembers that location. It remembers the time it's posted. Yeah, my own RSS feed is kind of broken. I need to fix that, really. It's 23rd of September. I've written something. Oh, wait. 23rd of... Why does it say 23rd of the 5th? 23rd of September. I need to look into this. I need to find out why my own RSS feed's broken. You can get down here. You can find stuff. Ars Technica is always a good one. Click on there, and you can get the article pulled across. Now, Ars Technica isn't brilliant in the sense that a lot of it goes, you read the rest of it on Ars Technica, which is annoying. If you're going to offer an RSS feed, just give me a damned RSS feed. And if I click on image, it uses Apple. I think it uses Preview. Use Apple Preview plugin API to bring up a better quality, higher res version of that. You can click to get rid of it. I think it's using Preview. Overall, though, it's really nice. And let me take you around some of the buttons in here. So I've got this here. I can tag this article if I wanted to. I can click the button here to add it to the reading. Is that the read latest? Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I just realised. I can bookmark it. I can favourite it, or most importantly, I can share it. If I swipe right in here again, it will bring up. Oh no, that was too many buttons. If I swipe right in here again, it will bring up the reader. Or left, it will bring up the reader mode in here. But it seems to be laggy, which is, I think there might be different controls on iPad to on desktop now I think about it. But you can get all the stuff in here you want, all the information in here you want, and also you can find things quite quickly if you want to find things. There are downsides though. There are things that are just missing from the previous version. One of those things is that in the old version of Reader, which I've now installed because I wanted to go all on this one, I could click a button to one button, send it to my Read It Later service. That's not something I have the option to do here. I can do it. I just have to go through the share sheet to do it and get to good links around one button. But it was something that I used before. Also, the fact there's no read unread, or at least read unread is not portrayed in the same way, does make it a little bit harder to keep fine track on projects you're following closely. You can feel like you missed it, but you can just go down here and see it manually, so it's a different way of approaching it. It's the options menu for this application that really feels like it's gone off the deep end, because there's the absolute minimal essential things. That's it. There's not any extra stuff. There's not the smorgasbord of tweaks you could have in the old application. These are just the streamlined essentials, which is, yeah, swipe left should open in browser. I'm apparently something, yeah, I was doing it right. I was like, where's that going? I don't know. My computer's been laggy because I've been recording for ages. The downside here, though, is that there's a subscription. The subscription is annoying because I just hate subscriptions. I don't like them. I feel like it's like having a company plugged directly into my bank account and they're just siphoning money off. The only things outside of media I subscribe to are Todoist, which has proven itself time and time again to be worth the money, as annoying as it is, and now Reader. But the only saving grace is that Reader is £9 a year. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking deeply about this, because as it stands with the previous pricing model, there can't be that many people that want a local RSS reader. So every time a new version is released, I assume most frequent users just buy the new version. And that's sort of a one hit in the pan for the developer, which removes incentive to make incremental increases and adds the incentive back to doing version increases. And then version increases, as it gets closer and closer to perfect, would slow down and make less money. by asking for a tenner a year instead of a one-off fee of a tenner every time a version number is released, I think perhaps I get it. I get why the developer wants to do it. I think it's probably a little bit on the road to anti-consumer, and maybe a license where, like, if you want to get this current version, you pay, and then like every time there's like a minor increase, you don't get that extra feature unless you pay something like Goodreads does, or Agenda app. There's lots of different ways of doing it, but outright to be booted out of this if you don't pay subscription feels a little bit harsh, a little bit strange. But at the same time, at £9 a year, I don't resent that amount of money. So yeah, and again, it only starts off at £9 a year. It's definitely going to get more expensive as time goes by because that's the nature of things. So that kind of makes me growl at my screen a little bit. But the fact is that Reader's very, very good. I didn't like it at first. I genuinely, when I first loaded it up, I was going, well, they've made it rubbish now. What's this? Where are all my options? Where's this? Where's that? But then as you read it over time, you start going, hold on a minute. This actually makes sense. This suddenly makes it so that I don't feel like I haven't checked my RSS and I'm going to dump all these off and start again. I don't feel like any sense of urgency. I can just scroll through at my leisure and go, okay, that's good. Or like with what I do, where I keep my my subreddits not on the main feed. I just go to them separately when I feel like reading them. Puts the power back in my hands. Also, with RSS, I know RSS isn't going anywhere. RSS is a staple web technology, but I do feel like people aren't that good at making sure it works and making sure that it's compliant and making sure it's stable. And some newer platforms don't even include RSS as part of their spec. So the ability to just suck up a Mastodon feed and just use it, so you haven't got to think about, even though it's using RSS in the back end, you don't have to think about that. You just type in a Mastodon username and it just finds it, or an X username, or just typing in these usernames of Blue Sky, whatever, and then not having to worry about the RSS feed actually makes a lot of sense to me, because it's taken this idea of what we follow and who we follow and why, implementing it into something that's RSS has always been thought of as a news application for a lot of people. It always has been for me, and plumbing that in with everything else, all of a sudden it all zip ties together and you get this unified feed for everything you're interested in. It makes a lot of sense to me. The fact that Reader Classic isn't going anywhere, it's still there, and the developer claims that they're going to update it and keep it up to date. I'm not sure how long that'll happen for, because while great, we're going to keep this up to date, the reality is it's going to be on the back burner. It's going to be a secondary thought. Now, I don't think Reader needs any updates. It just needs to make sure it's compliant with new versions of macOS. So as long as that happens, I don't think there's a reason to overly worry about it. It should keep on ticking on for years, I would think. Or there's only just been a Mac update and nothing broke, so we're probably good until the next major version increase, even if it was stopped to be messed with. But it does feel a little bit like a betrayal for long-term Reader users who is happy to just upgrade every time they was asked to just get to the next version when asked. It does feel like a bit of betrayal to suddenly ask for a subscription, and in many ways give you a much lighter application than we used to. But all that said, I am using it, and I am enjoying it, and I am finding it. I mean, I've nothing really bad to say about it. I'm actually, it works fine. I really like it. So your mileage may vary. You can get Reader from the App Store. If you're interested in Reader 6, 5, whatever it was called, it's just called Reader Classic, which is still in the App Store as well. I don't believe there's any discount on Reader Classic, and if you're interested in Reader but you don't want to pay, there is a trial. But overall, it's a really interesting way of doing things, and I actually like it. I am resentful of that subscription, though. Thanks for watching. I've been HexDSL. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye. Oh, hexdsl.com, by the way.